What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Shuggy from Shook Earth Media, and today we are talking about the mid-season finale of the final season of The Walking Dead. This is the last mid-season finale we will ever get of the main flagship show of The Walking Dead series, so it's a bittersweet time for sure. The final episode finished filming on March 30th, so the show is now wrapped filming. They still obviously have editing and stuff like that to do, but it's done filming. It's the end of an era, an incredible series, and just wanted to say that before we get into my thoughts on this particular episode. So I was kind of wrong. No real major death in this episode. Nothing really unexpected or surprising. Kind of a big twist at the end, but we'll see in the following episode what the consequences of that are going to be. This episode's all about ramping up Lance here, and now he's becoming the shadowy. He was shadowy before, we didn't know what his intentions were, now we're seeing it happen. So we're taking that next step. I would say when the show returns, he's not going to be around too much longer, and we kind of build him up as this little side villain before the Commonwealth story changes. That's my assumption right now. So yeah, I just wanted to admit that I was wrong, that there was no major death in this episode. As kind of surprised to say that as I am. I kind of assumed it's the last finale we have before the end. They'd want to do something big, shocking to stir things up, mix things up. It doesn't look like that's what happened this week, but that's okay. It's a finale episode. It feels big, more budget. They spend more time shooting it. I appreciate they have extra effects. They have, more time taken for shots and stuff, so a little more varied than usual. So I appreciate the finale aspect of this episode, but it's a little underwhelming in general, I would say, honestly. The tone is there, they're trying to ramp up this tension. There's a lot of great stuff in here, but I don't know. It wasn't like the best finale. It's not like my favorite episode of part 2 or anything. And part 2 has been pretty good in general, so I'm pretty positive on part 2. But we'll get to it as we go, but we start off with that little flash forward scene, and then we go back and find out what happened. Usually, I'm not really that big a fan of doing that when we don't have to, so I would say it's consistent here, but it does give you a little curiosity. And here we got Lance deciding things via coin toss. I'm not really sure why he's doing that, but there's some kind of symbolic significance to it, in the sense he's leaving things to fate. The episode's called Act of God, so he has his own weird kind of faith, I guess, or maybe they're trying to contrast it with Gabriel's, so that's interesting. There's something going on there. We get this scene with Max and Eugene, and I just felt like deja vu watching this with like the previous Stephanie, and I was like, do we really need this? Nah, we don't really need this, but it's all good. And then we got Aaron and Daryl and Gabriel traveling with Commonwealth soldiers, and they're still searching for the people with the guns, and there's an altercation with a zombie, and this guy here, I guess, is in charge in this scenario, almost gets killed. It was kind of cool. He's got his hand went through a wall, that's cool. But, and then he takes my thing was like, the helmet saved his life, because the zombie was like right here chomping at it, but he's alive because he had the mask on. And then immediately after, he takes it off. He's like, "You've saved my life, you've done your duty for today, I'll never need you again." So that was kind of amusing, but directors like to do that so that we can see people's faces and stuff. So I can understand, but it just came off in that moment as amusing. And we got the side plot here of Maggie and her group, and we got Herschel here, and then we got a scene here where Maggie's like, "I'm fine," and then Herschel's like, "No, you're not." I don't like when we try to have the kids like acting all wise and stuff. It's just becoming a habit at this point with the kid characters, and it's just like every kid character is trying to like, be the psychiatrist or something. It's just kind of funny. But so yeah, that kind of stuff didn't really work for me, honestly. And then we got Leia and stuff, and the Leia stuff kind of it falls flat to me. Again, I mean, how I felt about the Reaper storyline all along, but she's on this big revenge quest now, and Lance wants her to kill Maggie and all of that. And my thing is, like, I don't know why he needs her necessarily, but I guess it's like his way of trying to make a deal with her to get the guns back at the same time. Editor Shuggy here, just wanted to throw in one last point about Lance and hiring Leia. He mentioned that he was doing this, it was so that Leia could exact her revenge on Maggie for killing her family, but I don't know how Lance knows anything at all about the Reaper situation or what was going on between Maggie and Leia in the past. I don't know how he got that information, so it just feels to me like convenient that he would know that, and I just wanted to throw that in there, that I don't think he should have that information. So it kind of falls flat to me because we'll get to the end, just how it's executed. But, I wasn't ever really interested in the character. Glad she's gone. There's the major death, I guess, if you can call it that, which I really wouldn't, because, I mean, it's like, it's a villain. I mean, I guess it is a major death. But, it kind of fell flat. We got this hidey hole where Negan and his new wife and all of them are hiding, and all that's fine, but this scene really fell flat on its face for me personally. It just does not work. Where it's this thing like Maggie has this whole plan. She's gonna set up or she's gonna give Negan her son to babysit because of one thing that Negan did, and she's like, I'm starting to trust you now. And it's just this really over the top scene. Feels like it's trying to force the spinoff that's gonna eventually happen, and just like, despite everything that's ever happened, you saved my son. I mean, you murdered his father, but you saved my son. So now I'm trusting you. I'm gonna give you my son who tried to murder you 2 episodes ago, or threatened to. He hasn't let it go, and yet he's the one who's acting wise to her in this episode. I don't know, man. And it's like Maggie, no consistency either, because, in the pilot episode, and we'll get back to this with the Leia thing later, but in the not the pilot episode, in the first episode this season, we got Maggie, or this part 2, we got Maggie shooting all of Leia's compatriots, all of the Reapers, in vengeance, just cold-blooded, she could have let him go and all that, but she decided to murder them all, and it's not consistent with who she's being in this episode, especially later with Leia. She's like trying to convince her, you don't have to. Yeah, it's just not consistent, because Maggie's like, oh, revenge all season, and her whole feeling towards Negan, and now all of a sudden it's just like flipped on its head, and she's like not only sparing Negan, but she's also like trying to make peace with it. It just feels very wrong. I'm starting to trust you because of one. I don't know. It was in his interest in that moment to get Maggie's help, right? I mean, I don't see how it proves any sense of loyalty. I mean, he has saved her life before, and she didn't have that reaction. I guess it's different because it's her child. I don't know. It just seems inconsistent to me personally. And then this is where we have the final showdown, where they've decided. I mean, this is another scene where it's like, this is one of the bigger action scenes we've had this whole season. I'm happy to see it for that. They had budget for this episode, or this scene right here. I'm actually surprised that they showed us this in the trailer, because it did spoil this part of the season. In my initial reaction, I'm like, why is Daryl fighting the Commonwealth? It doesn't make any sense. And then here, I mean, it does make sense, but I just didn't think they would show us that early. And yet, that's exactly what happened. Maybe they thought we wouldn't notice that it's a Commonwealth soldier he's hitting or something. I don't know, maybe. But so it's one of the bigger budget scenes in the episode and in this part too, because we don't get as many action scenes like as we kind of used to, as far as like shootouts and stuff. But so this was a nice scene. I mean, we got nice effects, and we got some good zombie kills in this episode too. So they got the budget, but at the same time, the Commonwealth soldiers, they decided, they got the order that the execution, they're taken out, and yet they let them go into a junkyard and take cover behind stuff, and then they hide, and then they pop out. Whereas they had them in the line in front of them, and they could have just, while during the march, just like pop, 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 or just like taking them by surprise right away. So, the Commonwealth kind of gives them the advantage. You got to do that because it's a movie, but, it just like, there's a lot of convenient things that happen in the action scenes in this episode. And, in Fear, we talked about that a lot. It's less an issue in this show, but this episode is kind of an issue. Like a lot of the convenient things that, are convenient for the writer. And then we get an abrupt commercial break, and then the action scene's kind of over. But, it's a fun scene, and it's a bigger budget scene, so I don't want to complain about it too much, but I just want to let you know that's my gut feeling. It's like, the action scene, a little contrived, very convenient, and, it was fun, though, so not hating. And then we got this whole Max is trying to steal these documents scene, and Milton comes in, and, there's nothing, this scene's good, no issues. I like this subplot of, finding details of, the shady corruption stuff going on in the newspaper storyline. We'll get back to it later. Towards the end, I have a couple questions, but it's definitely a decent storyline. Then we get Sebastian coming in here and crashing Max's party. And, Sebastian, I like how they adapted him. They got a great actor, and he's a little over the top. But the scene works. It's again a convenient thing. He just walks in right at the right time, and he just so happens not to look at it. And I feel like that moment's gonna bite Max in the end. But and then we get the inside of that this mansion here surprised me a bit. I was like, I think we were reusing sets from the episode with the Gollum dudes. So it looked a bit more shanty town than I was expecting. But they set the bombs in there and everything, and that was kind of cool. And then we get, Leia coming out with the gun. And they stand up, and then one of them gets shot. And we've actually had this shot where, they stand up and they're like, let's do it. Let's do a thing. And then they get shot out of nowhere. We've had that happen a lot of times in the show. So it's a bit repetitive, but, I'm not going to complain about it too much. And we get this really cool looking zombie. So, again, like I said, they took their time in this episode. We're going to spend a little extra time, craft some cool looking zombies. We got somebody who's a little crispy, a little charred. So I like that aspect of it. Want to point out the good production value in this episode. And then, they kind of just like run away. And again, our crew getting away is a little convenient. This is back to the intro little teaser thing that we got. And now we're running around in the woods. And, it's the woods at night. And it's kind of underwhelming how that whole night scene plays out. But I like this scene here with the reporter looking at the information, and they're setting up. This is setting up, a rebellion storyline for next season. So I'll just go into this now instead of later. But later we get the newspaper article that Connie writes and everything about the corruption of the Miltons and all that. And here's the truth of what's going on. And I like that. That's cool. But why does the editor, who a few episodes ago was telling us to basically she was telling Connie that she just wanted her to write Pamela's press releases for her, basically. So she's like on the side as the editor in chief at the newspaper is on the side of the Miltons. I'm just curious why there wouldn't have been some pushback or maybe some censorship in the article. So I don't know. It just felt like they set up for something earlier and then they kind of went back on it, you know. And then we get, Zombie, and then Maggie runs into Leah. Somebody predicted in my comments that Maggie was going to take out Leah. I said no, it's probably going to be Daryl. Guess who's right? It's your boy. Your boy got that right. But that's, no, I get bragging rights, I guess. This part I really, really hate. So maybe your mileage will vary with this. But, Leia corners her, surprises her, and then ties her up, and it's like, I'm gonna tie you up and interrogate you in the morning so I can tell you how angry I am at you specifically. Even though, honestly, should she be just mad at Daryl and everybody? I don't know. She's like, I want to destroy everything. It just falls flat to me because, again, they didn't really set up the whole family element very well. And it contradicted, how she was found in her cabin earlier. In, the first episode where she's introduced, her cabin looks like it was broken into. There's some kind of scuffle. And then she's back with her crew. So it looks like they took her against her will is what it looks like. And plus she had to leave them eventually to even get to that cabin, right? So the whole contradiction is like she's so obsessed with her family and stuff, and we've never seen them giving her any kindness, but I'm just repeating myself from past reviews. They didn't set that up right, so this falls flat to me. And then especially, like, I just feel like Leia would have just killed her in the woods at night and just been done with it. She wouldn't be doing this, I'm going to explain my evil plan to you. And again, the contradiction with Maggie and this, the same thing with Negan that I was talking about earlier applies to this scene as well. And, and then something really contrived happens, and Maggie's able to get the drop on her somehow and take the gun out of her head. And Leia's like, I'm shaking, even though she's killed so many people before, but all of a sudden now she's having this huge like issue pulling the trigger. Like, I don't understand really what's going on. So, and then the scuffle comes in, and then Daryl comes in at the last second and shoots her. Again, extremely contrived. So this climactic action show off standoff thing really did not care for this at all. And we didn't even really see the impact the decision made on Daryl. So their whole relationship was like, just, it didn't have any payoff or anything. So, again, so this is just my disappointments with this. But yeah, and then we get Daryl shoots Lance, but he's not dead. I'm glad he's not dead yet, because we do need a villain for the series as of right now. And I'm curious to see how his storyline's going to play out. And then at this climactic moment here, Lance is like, after he gets shot and survives and all that, he's like, now we take everything. And this is kind of the twist part of the episode, where I wasn't expecting this to happen. And if I had to guess, this would be like a temporary state of affairs. But the Commonwealth takes over Alexandria, Hilltop, and Oceanside. So they take over everything, and they put their banners up. Of course, we get them breaking Negan's people out, and we get Max putting the thing back, and this is the newspaper article that I wanted to get to, which again, I just feel like contradicts how they set up the editor that Connie was working for. I'm just like surprised. And then here we get this banner here, the Commonwealth at the famous Alexandria walls, and it was like a CGI banner thing. I don't think it's a real banner. It doesn't look it to me. But yeah, so it just like it's a little surprising. I'm kind of surprised that they would just take everything over by force. And would they really just give it up right away without a fight or anything? There's nobody there at this point, or maybe most of our people, I don't know. And then we got the banners at Hilltop as well. and at Oceanside we got them. It looks like suspiciously he it's cool with the scar now too. It looks suspiciously like a lineup situation. He's got the whole Oceanside crew here, and he's like he's flipping a coin again, and that's what we end the episode on. So I'm looking here to see if Luke is here because we haven't seen Luke in a long time. And last we heard, he was in Oceanside. He's supposed to be in the final season, but it doesn't look like he's here. So that's a bit of a contradiction, huh? Unless he's gone fishing. He just happened to be out at the right place at the right time. Him and his girl, I forget what her name is at this point. But anyways, getting distracted. That's the episode, guys. So that's the big twist at the end. Instead of a big death, which is what I was expecting, instead we got a build-up episode and building up Lance to be a big villain. I think he'll be taken out within the first 2 or 3 episodes is usually how these things go. But, you know, maybe he'll last a little longer. Maybe he'll be our key villain. Maybe he'll perform a coup and he'll be in charge of the Commonwealth. So I'm really curious to see how it goes. But yeah, overall, it's a big finale feel episode, but some of the storylines fell flat for me. Your mileage may vary, but you know, we got better production value and stuff, and a lot of great stuff. And this is the last mid-season finale of one of my favorite shows ever, so I just want to give it props. You know, I'm not trying to be too negative. I'm just being honest about what my opinion on this episode is. I was hoping for something a little bigger, but I'm happy to see the stuff with Lance, and he's one of my favorite characters that they added from the comic to this arc. So I'm really excited to see how everything shakes up with the final season. So that's it for the final season of the main show for a little bit. We're going to be back with Fear the Walking Dead. We got 2 episodes on April 17th, I believe. I believe it's Easter, if I'm not mistaken. And that will be our next episode back. I might wait a week because for AMC Plus, they're doing first 2 episodes at once, but they won't premiere episode 2 on cable until the week after, and they also won't have an episode on AMC Plus next week. So it looks like we're not doing the week ahead of time, but I could be wrong. Maybe we are. But so I'm going to plan that out depending on how that shakes out. And after that, we got the spin-off show, the anthology series. And also around that time, I believe we'll have the Clementine comic, which I'll be making videos about. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, definitely stick with Shook Earth Media. We'll be speculating on what's going to happen with the rest of the season. And I'm really curious to see how the show wraps up. I'm a big fan of the comics. And I'm a huge fan of the show too. I'm a huge fan of the actors and so much of the amazing work that goes on the show. So, you know, don't want to make it sound like I'm a hater or anything. So, yeah, that's it, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Commonwealth took over our group. Let me know what you think about that, how you think that's going to shake out, and what you want to see happen to Lance. All right, guys, I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace out, everybody.